Hey guys, Level Cap here and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming. Battlefield 1 has been slow moving when it comes to addressing some of the community's bigger concerns. However, DICE's recent post gave us further details on how they plan to progress the game. From now on, DICE are targeting a monthly release schedule for big patches instead of the seasonal ones they've been doing for the winter and spring updates. The winter update was the one that added ribbons, some elite codices, and raised the max class ranks. So DICE taking updates this big and releasing them monthly instead of every few months could be really significant in the long run. We may see monthly updates that add tons of new content to the progression system and some weapon variety as well, which I'm sure the community would love to see. Now, next month's big patch is the spring update. It will bring platoons into Battlefield 1 as well as tweaks to the operations game mode and other gameplay improvements. Hopefully it'll be the first of these big monthly patches. It looks like DICE are at the point where all the stuff they didn't finish before Battlefield 1's launch is nearly ready to deploy. Weapon variety is obviously a big point of concern for Battlefield 1. DICE are currently testing 4 new weapon variations on CTE that will be free for all players. If these monthly patches keep adding free weapon variants, we could see the base weapon selection expand in a pretty big way. Now, the blog post also gave us some new information about the next DLC for Battlefield 1 in the name of the Tsar. It's confirmed the DLC will include the Russian army and snow maps. My guess is the new maps will have some winter weather effects like the whiteout from Operation Lockers in Battlefield 4. Personally, I'm just excited for maps that aren't set in the springtime countryside. In a surprise move, Microsoft granted Eurogamer exclusive access to the finalized hardware for their upcoming mid-generation console refresh, Project Scorpio. Up until now, all information about the Scorpio's hardware and features was speculative. Now we have all the information and a pretty good idea of what to expect out of it. The Scorpio's CPU, GPU, audio hardware, and memory controller are being packed into a single processing unit. It features a dedicated DirectX 12 hardware processor. This takes a ton of the processing burden off the CPU in games that support DirectX 12 like Battlefield 1 and Gears of War 4. So while the improvements Microsoft made to the CPU in Scorpio over the Xbox One aren't all that extreme, the load being put on the CPU has been greatly reduced overall. Now, Microsoft has made considerably more serious improvements when it comes to the GPU. The Scorpio's GPU has a 43% faster compute speed overall compared to the Xbox One. The processing unit in the Scorpio also has 12 gigabytes of RAM with 8 gigabytes available to games. For comparison, the Xbox One and PS4 Pro only have 8 gigs of RAM with 5 gigs available for games. The RAM increase will almost certainly allow for higher resolution textures. The Scorpion is designed for native 4K gaming, so having plenty of RAM for those 4K textures is a pretty big deal. Now, on paper, Scorpio specs aren't really on par with what you'd expect in a 4K capable gaming PC, but Microsoft's console upgrade seems to have been done with developers in mind. What they did is they actually tested Xbox One games for all their bottlenecks, figured out where the console needed the most improvement based on what developers were going for with their video games, and improved it in that area. So instead of the system being capable of something developers have no practical use for, it's been optimized for the way that they've actually been making their games. Aside from improving performance, this makes porting Xbox One titles to the Scorpio very easy. Even without Scorpio-specific optimizations, Forza 6 runs in native 4K, 60 FPS at roughly 60% GPU load. And even though a racing game isn't always the hardest thing to run, it demonstrates the Scorpio's hardware still has headroom for more demanding titles. That doesn't mean that every Scorpio game will run at 4K at 60 FPS, but it does mean that most games should run at stable FPS on settings that don't sacrifice things like anti-aliasing or adding in tons of motion blur. And unlike the PlayStation 4 Pro, the Scorpio will downsample from 4K to 1080p if you don't have it connected to a 4K display. So you still get some of the benefits of 4K gaming like sharper edges and higher resolution textures without needing to spend even more money on a better TV. When it comes to pricing, Eurogamer expects the Scorpio to launch at $499. The PS4 Pro currently retails for around $400, so it's in the ballpark for 4K consoles. And considering the key improvements over the PS4 Pro, it does sound like the Scorpio is reasonably priced considering its competition. It's expected to launch this holiday season, with more details to be announced during E3 in June. Microsoft are rumored to be demoing Forza 7, Red Dead Redemption 2, Battlefront 2, and some first-party titles as part of the Scorpio's official reveal. Gearbox Studios received quite a lot of social media flack for announcing their partnership with G2A as the exclusive game distributors for Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. Since this community outcry, Gearbox has reconsidered this move and issued a list of demands G2A must meet if they want to keep their distribution partnership alive. In summary, the demands state that G2A needs to make their fraud protection free for all customers within 30 days, open a web service that lets devs and publishers flag fraudulent keys within 90 days, impose restrictions on how non-certified devs and publishers can sell on G2A within 60 days, and make the payment system on G2A basically a non-convoluted mess within 30 days. If G2A meets those demands, Gearbox will reconsider the partnership. That said, I highly doubt G2A will change anything about the way they're currently doing business. They've built a huge retail platform based specifically on scamming people and protecting the scam itself. Seeing the company develop a conscience now is highly unlikely, especially when they are only threatened with losing a single collector's edition title. And unfortunately, Gearbox themselves are no strangers to the ways of shady selling tactics, as they came under heavy fire for selling Aliens Colonial Marines on the merit of pure fabrications about the game's quality. The constant association of shady selling tactics with G2A isn't great for the company's image, but there are no signs that it's slowing down their business. Now, when it comes to beating scumbags, apparently Blizzard knows what they're doing. They were just awarded $8.6 million by a federal court in the case against the German cheat maker Bossland. The case alleged over 42,000 counts of copyright infringement and prohibits Bossland from selling any cheats from Blizzard games in the US. And although this isn't the first lawsuit filed against the cheat-making company N1, it is a very big one, and hopefully continues the precedent of fighting these cheat companies using the legal system, and hopefully we'll have some pretty strong laws in place in the near future. A lot of other countries are instating anti-cheat laws as we speak, and hopefully the US won't take too long to figure it out as well. BioWare have detailed their plans for future support of Mass Effect Andromeda. Their most recent patch improved many things, including the eyes for humans and Asari characters. Andromeda has been heavily criticized for its poor animations and model quality. Over the next 2 months, BioWare intends to improve the general appearance of characters, including adding more variety to the character creator. They also plan on making improvements to the cinematics and animations, among other things. The improvements BioWare made to the eyes with the most recent patch is actually pretty good, but there's still no telling how much they can do to fix the game's more ingrained animations and issues. Rainbow Six Siege's next update will introduce changes to the way hitboxes work, so operators like Blitz won't take damage if they get shot in a bulky part of their armor, like the ear cups on their helmet. This should cut down on the number of deaths caused by players getting shot when they shouldn't be. The hitbox update is being tested in the invite-only test servers for Siege. The same servers also leaked info about the next DLC for Siege. The new DLC will be set in Hong Kong on a map called Theme Park. The leak didn't include any footage of the map though. Data miners also discovered the names of the 2 new operators coming with the DLC, Caltrop and Dazzler. 2 new weapons will also be included, the QBZ-95 rifle and the JS-9 SMG. As for gadgets, Caltrop will have poisonous mines and a new concussion mine will be added. Dazzler's gadget may be a non-lethal laser device that causes temporary blindness from a distance. The constant updates and free DLC policy for Rainbow Six Siege have continued to grow the game's popularity and make it a very attractive first-person title. Hopefully other AAA developers making first-person shooters will catch on to the new trend. Anyway, that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.